The right hand side, like the right screen, is everything that happens in the pavilion itself. What you see here is a long shot, but it will include also close-up and everything. And it describes everything that happens in the pavilion. And when the viewer will confront this, I hope that he or she will understand few things. One is that the same people that we saw crawling in the caves are the same people that are in the pavilion, meaning they got here somehow. The second thing is that the place that I'm standing as a viewer is the same place where the event took place, meaning there's a gap in history. There's something that happened here before, and there's no longer, or there are very few evidence for that event that happened, and it creates some kind of the time is being, there's a gap of time that you have to fill somehow. And the third thing is the source of the sound. You will realize that the sounds that you're hearing from downstairs are actually the voices of those people that are producing those voices and being mixed by the soundman and turning into something else. The left screen is what I entitle the breaking in screen, that starts from the point that they're starting to dig up, breaking the floor and spreading into the pavilion. And this is it's a very important screen because it links those the journey and the appearing in the pavilion, and actually does what only moving image can do with a very simple cut between Israel and Venice, which of course every viewer will understand that it's completely a lie, but it's more interesting to deal with that option than to say, oh, this cannot be, because everything that I do is not about what happened, it's more about what can be done with something. So right before you go or leave, you'll see the fifth and last screen, which is the beginning of the journey, and that will lead you hopefully downstairs, where you will meet again our friend, the DJ. So now I'm going to show you just stills, because the video is still being edited from what we shot in Israel. So we shot in 5 different caves and tunnels in Israel. Some of them are prehistoric caves that thousands of years ago people lived in, and some other caves are man-made tunnels. These, for example, were used by when the Romans, by the way, are the same, maybe the Italians that were occupying the country, and those not Israel that day, but the kingdom of whatever. So those tunnels were dug in order to sneak from them. And the others, for example, were dug by the Romans in order to maintain their occupation. And the only difference between them is the money that was invested. The Roman tunnels you can walk through, and the others you can only crawl. So this is us through the caves, and this is us seemingly breaking into the pavilion. And this is the cut, and we're in the pavilion. And this is us filming. This is the the ground level of the Israeli pavilion after we broke the floor. And because I didn't bring video, I made a very short animation of what's going on. So it's like this, that, one. So in that manner, 30 people are coming from this hall, and now they're spreading into the pavilion, and the workshop starts. Each one of them is making his own self-portrait. As I told you, many of them never touched clay in their life before, and then the microphones, and the sound session starts, and the rest, this is like how I draw the project, and this is us. And something that was weird that happened, this is Oz Malul. By the way, many of those friends many of the actors the participants are my friends and friends of friends, and some of them are artists. For example, this is Oz Malul, an artist, a great artist that is also a DJ, so he is our DJ. And spontaneously there was a rave in the Israeli pavilion because he played so loud, so people just, my actors started to dance. That would not be in the show, but it just happened. So I'm showing you, this is all my participants, which I like with their sculptures. And this is Oz, and the rest, and this is what they left afterwards. This is the evidence or the leftovers of what they did. And the rest you will see, hopefully, in the Israeli pavilion. And that's it. Thank you very much. If you have questions. Jon Kessler. Hi, Jon.
Hello, everybody. It's on. Hi, everyone. I'm Jon Kessler. I guess it's time to leave. Wow, Gilad. You were on fire, and it's so amazing to watch the trajectory of the work since you graduated. I've got some questions about the workshop specifically, but before I get to that, I think what I'd like to do is just note that there really are, you are nothing if not consistent in some of your obsessions and some of your, the themes that run through all of your work. And I just wrote down a few of them, which we can answer or address as many of these as we have time for. But hair is really important in your work. And in fact, you once said something fascinating about someone's work. I think it was about the work and not about him or her. But you mentioned that you were talking about the work, and you said that the work, the work's balls weren't hairy enough. That you want an artwork's balls to be really hairy, which I thought was fascinating. I never heard a description quite like that. Mud, or the primordial ooze, I think is consistent and runs through so much of your work. Underground and holes and being buried is certainly a theme that runs through so much of your work. The human voice and language, and sometimes the lack of language, and that may be segueing into a kind of a de-evolution, which is happening, a kind of a returning to a hairy state of pre-human, pre-language. Here I think about an early work that you applied to the program with Chi-Chi the Gorgeous, which you didn't show here today, an earlier work where these hairy beings are lying on a beautiful, sublime landscape, rocky landscape, and screaming. Moaning, and then finally the role of the community, the sort of the gathering together of people, society to do a job. So that's sort of a lot of there's a lot of themes there. If there's any in particular that you might want to comment on, that'd be great.
Okay, so you started from the most difficult question for me. Like, not her in particular, like scanning the motives of my work, or claiming that, by the way, I agree with everything, yes? So claiming that I deal with certain things, that is true. But this is the most difficult question for me, because I think this is the one I cannot really answer. Because I can answer like why I chose to do this or that, or how some things are being structured, or what is important to me in art in general. What do I look in art? If you mentioned the hairy balls, I'm sorry, that was like in a private conversation. It depends. I wouldn't say it in any, but yes, I mean like something that is very like raw and visceral, that I personally look for in art. I look for that, and I also look for a feeling of what the fuck, okay? The feeling of what the fuck is the feeling that everything that, or not everything, but many things that you already knew, like your kit of tools is no longer functioning, that you have this moment of disorientation or oh, I know this, but what can I do with this? So this is like things that are really, but as for the, you know, hair or screaming people or barriers or things like that, these are things that are so deep inside me that I think I make art in order to understand them, and I'm not making art in order to talk about them, because I don't know why I'm so attracted to those things, and I realize that they are connected in some way. I think I should use, I think I should talk in my therapy, with my therapist about that, because I cannot really touch those things, I think.
Of course, so many of them are things that usually happen in private. You know, clearly the mud thing is something that's, a lot of these are fetish-like, you know, subjects and symbols and objects. And yet you are figuring out some way. I remember when you were working on the 588, and it started, I came into your studio, and it really started with a single photograph that you had found on the website. And you just kept scratching at that. It was like an obsession and something you just couldn't get rid of. You couldn't get out of your head, and you just kept scratching until the scratch became a kind of, you know, like more of an oozing scab, and that turned into a kind of a narrative which you started to form. But that was fascinating to watch firsthand, you know, being your professor.
Because I think that because I'm working on a long-term project, I like it that way. So I cannot do everything that I think of. I mean, like, so once I have this idea that is hunting me, or an image that wouldn't let go, so then I would just stick to that yes, and I would not give up till I do something with that. I'm looking for this feeling of that the image is hunting me and not I'm hunting the image, that it wouldn't let me rest till it will say to me, the image, you have to do something with me, you have to deal with me, unless you would not sleep at night or you would be bothered with things. And then I like this, I like this a lot. It could be a song, it could be an image, it could be anything, but really grabs me.